These are the 19 fantasy series that I absolutely need to read, or at least start in 2024. Starting with Malazan, the Book of the Fallen. This is a story that either I will love or I will hate. I think I will actually hate it, but I want to be mistaken. It's a story that I know will need a lot of commitment from my side because it's supposed to be massive in scope, massive in the terms of characters that you will follow, and the plot in itself is also quite complex and nuanced. The characters are grey, and it's also very grim dark, which are usually elements that are not my cup of tea, but the fans of this story, I've just been surrounded by them by so long, and people is just screaming time and time again for me to give this one an opportunity. So this is the year in which I will start Malazan. Also, I've heard that book 1, it's kind of like the weakest, so I'm thinking to give this one at least book 1 and 2 a try before I decide to continue or finish. Let me know down below if you agree with that or not. And speaking about things that I want to do this year, let me tell you a huge discovery that I made in today's sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of online classes where you can learn from design, writing, productivity, photography, even how to read better. This year, I am investing a little bit more in myself, and I am taking action by enrolling in one of their learning paths. These learning paths are curated sequential classes that you can take in order to take one skill and master that. I am taking the course of Self-Care Essentials, but based on the conversations that we've already had, I know you're already crazy talented, and trust me, you have a lot to contribute to the BookTube community. So if you're thinking to open a BookTube channel, this is the moment, and I have the perfect learning path for you. And here you will be able to learn how to start and grow your YouTube channel by Ali Abdal, who is a massive YouTuber, how to learn confidence, speaking to the camera, how to create engaging videos, what are the basics of editing, how to engage with social media. It is really a very updated guide. Even if I were to start my channel new, I would no doubt come back to these and get all of the basics. I've also curated a list with other learning paths that I think will be useful for you. One for writing, because I know some of you already create your own stories. You will find everything down below in the description. And the best thing is that first 500 people to click the link in the description will have 1 month free trial. So you can do all of these for free 1 month. See if this is it for you or not. And let's get back to all of those books that I still need to read this year. This will also be the year of Wheel of Time. I'm actually planning to read 12 books within this series. We're going to do a read along over our Patreon, so join us if you wanted to read 1 book per month. We are starting in January and I cannot wait. I've already read Eye of the World and I'm really thrilled about this quest of reading these stories together with a lot of people. I will probably do a live for each of those stories because I've actually loved the community that surrounds Wheel of Time. In here we have a story that also has fans throughout the world. I've been contacted by so many people telling me that I need to continue this series, and I'm really excited to do so. This is a story that is really classic fantasy at its best. It's a fight between the good and the evil, and we will have these different teenagers that are facing this world that it's bigger than them, and they will need to advance, they will need to grow, and it's kind of like a chosen one in itself as well. The arc of the characters, although I have not yet read that, it's supposed to be one of the most incredible arcs that a lot of people have read, and I am very enthusiastic about that. The pacing is supposed to also be really on point, and it's very adventurous. It has great action scenes, and I cannot wait to keep reading these characters. I hope I love this one as much as a lot of people, but we shall see. I also want to keep reading the Dandelion Dynasty by Ken Liu. I read already book 1 and 2, and this is the year in which I will read book 3 and book 4, which actually needs to be read together. Those are massive commitment because those books are around almost 1,000 pages each, but this world, man, it's so fascinating. You definitely need to be in the right state to read this because it has so many great things. It's also massive in scope. There's a lot of different characters, but you will follow this epic war that it's unfolding. It almost reads as historical fiction, and it is fascinating. It is deeply strategic and political, and there are also very intense action scenes, but the characters are mind-blowing, they're profound. Book 1, I'd say, display characters in a very superficial way in which you get to learn what these characters are, but you don't get to be in their minds. Meanwhile, in book 2 onwards, that changes and you will get to see their inner thoughts, and it is fascinating. It's a series that is ranked between the favorite of a lot of booktubers that I really admire, such as Patrick Leo, and I cannot wait to finalize this one. The Faithful and the Fallen, it's also a story that I am planning to end this year. I only read so far Malice, and it has been one of my favorite books in 2023. I cannot wait to continue. This is a story that, again, it's classic fantasy, but done in such an incredible way. It's modern, but how? It will follow this classic fight between the good and the evil, where we will have this chosen one, but it's done in a way that it's so mesmerizing. The pacing, it's outstandingly fast and beautiful, and we have this very compelling medieval world that it's not something that I actually read a lot, or at least I haven't read a lot. I'm planning to change that this year, and it's a world that completely is surrounded by great characters, but at the same time the bad ones are really bad and the good ones are really good. So it's a nice blend, and I'm really fascinated about this one. Cannot wait to see what happens, and I've heard that our characters will go through a lot of different changes. Terrible stuff will happen to them, and I cannot wait to see that, although at the same time I absolutely hate to see that. Another series that I am thrilled to continue, it's the Mage's trilogy. Just read the first book, Promise of Blood, and I was fascinated by it. It was one of my favorite books, was my favorite book of 2022. The magic system is great, the characters are fascinating. The writing style was really on point for me because it was political, it was adventurous, it had a lot of war-driven scenes plus religion, but it also had this humor that was really on point for me. Plus, again, this magic system that it's based on different layers. There are 3 different types of magics in here, and that made it for everything to be so rich, so phenomenal. I knew from the beginning that this was going to be one of my favorite stories, and I am mind blown that people says that book 2 and 3 are actually better than the first one. So I'm actually hoping for these to be one of my favorites series or concluded series of all time, if not the best. I cannot wait to see if you've read it already. What are you thinking about this? Changing a little bit to sci-fi, I want to get into Empire of Silence by Christopher Rucchio. This has been on my radar for so long, but lately it has been getting a lot of praise due to Daniel Green, Patrick Leo, my book reviews, and I've been piqued. My curiosity has been piqued. You know, you got it. It's supposed to be this massive story that unfolds a war in space. I actually don't know much about it. I don't want to know much. I know that it's a fairly slow, very character driven, and I'm very prepared for that. So my expectations, I think, are set, but I want to discover the richness of the world. It's supposed to be a very well-written story, which also blows my mind because Christopher Rucchio is kind of new still to the writer's role. So I'm very fascinated by it, and it's very promising in my opinion. In this time coming back to fantasy that I really want to read, it's Illborn. I know. I have not read this one yet, and people is just telling me time and time again that this is so down my alley, and actually it seems like it. It's a story that it's also medieval setting. We will have very unique characters. It's kind of like an involuntary hero, if you will, and I really am thrilled about reading a story that it's supposed to be really, really adventurous and that has stolen the heart of a lot of people that I also really admire. I cannot wait for this one. And beginning now, just after this video is filmed, I will start with The Bound and the Broken series by Ryan Cahill. In this case, we have epic fantasy, high fantasy with dragons, and we will have adventure, we will have amazing characters, and it also seems that the plot in itself just gets better and better and better. Although the books are also really chunky and it's a commitment in itself, it seems that it's a story that does not require as much attention as probably, for example, the Dandelion, because it's more adventurous in nature, and it has this very epic premise of war, of trying to stop that. I've been trying to read this one for such a long time. This is the moment I really want to read it. I also will give another try to Joe Abercrombie, in this case with the Age of Madness trilogy. I know that I still need to read The First Law, and I just read The Blade itself, and it was meh for me. It's kind of like a series that I might continue, but I'm also kind of like DNFing, and I know this is set in the same world. We will follow not the same characters, but it's a world that has been explored before. However, I've heard that it is way better, and a lot of people that I know is telling me that it might be for me. It has great woman depiction, which is something that I absolutely love. It's very political, done well. It's a little bit less character driven, but it also has a huge spotlight to these characters, and I'm willing to see how this very conniving society unfolds. Hopefully I will like this grimdark story a little bit more than I did the first lot. In 2023 I read Sheep of Magic and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was phenomenal, so I cannot wait to continue reading. However, I've read that a lot of people kind of loved it, and this is consolidated to be the best series for them, but also there's people that I really resemble my taste with, that the last book kind of like missed a point for them, and I'm very scared for that. These characters are so well fleshed out, and Robin Hobb, in my opinion, has this unique ability of just sharing this passion, and the characters are human. I am scared about this author writing, because you see how things are really something that you can actually see happening, and that's not something that I believe happens as frequent, and I was mesmerized by this ability. I am very scared about these characters. I don't want any of them to die. At the same time, I want all of them to die. It's a very complex relationship I have with these characters, so I will see. Let me know down below if you've already read it, if you think I will like it, or if you think that I should prioritize this one out. One series that I am definitely prioritizing is the Licanius trilogy. Just read the first book, The Shadow of What Was Lost, and I read it in 2022. I actually really liked it, but 2023, The Will of the Many, was my best book, and this is the same author, and I want to read more from this author. I want to give another opportunity to this trilogy. First book, I liked it fine. I thought the magic system was fascinating. The characters were not super well fleshed out, in my opinion, but there's a lot still to go, and I've heard that it's a series that you kind of like need to binge, because a lot of things happen. So it's something that once I pick up, I will probably reread the last part of this book and then pick up with book 2 and 3. I still think I'm kind of memorizing what happened here pretty vividly, which in itself is an accomplishment. I really liked it. This massive world that is about to unfold, an incredible magic system, and it also has a little bit of time shenanigans, sci-fi elements that I really loved. So definitely a trilogy that I believe it's usually underrated, and I will give this one another try. Cradle, it's another series that I will be continuing with. I've just read the first book, and although it was okay for me, I really want to get more into this progression type of fantasy, especially with Cradle. It seems that book 2, 3 onwards are way better, so I feel that I've not given these enough opportunity to be a forever favorite for me, and I want to remedy that, because I really liked the Avatar-like idea. I love elemental magic, and in here it's kind of like the theme. I also like the idea of progressive magic, and I want that. I want this character, and I want to see how Lyndon advances and how he changes and how he can become so powerful. It kind of like, it's a story that to me screams, I'm a superhero, and I really want that. The Blacktongue Thief, it's a series that I'm also shocked that I have not read yet, and I've got this one recommended so frequently because it seems that it's adventurous. It also has a lot of humor, and it has kind of like thieves as main characters, misfits, which is very on point for me. It sounds really like my cup of tea, so I really want to see what happens here. It's a story that again has a lot of adventure, and the humor seems to be similar to the ones of Kings of the Wild, which was really on point for me, so I am hoping to really enjoy this. Now, if you're finding this useful, well, you know what to do. And now let's continue with something that I was debating with myself if I should read it or not. But yes, I will continue with the Red Rising series. I have read book 1, 2, and 3, and a lot of people is just really loving what happens afterwards, but I am so scared. I actually suffered a lot with this story, so I am not sure I'm prepared to feel all the feels with these characters, but it's about to be concluded soon, and I want to be riding that wave and feeling everything. It's a story that has a system that it's very fascinating to me, because society is structured in different layers, and those layers are resembled by colors, and these people with the different colors have kind of like almost different personalities. Everything is different for them, so really fascinated by that. It's a uprising, a revolution kind of story with characters that are really unique, and there's a passion. I think Pierce Brown is able to write stories very vividly, and there's a little bit of of not knowing what happens, and the narrator kind of hides stuff from you every now and then, which I'm not this huge fan of that, but it really worked for me. So I really want to continue reading this and figuring out if I will suffer or not, and you will need to, you know, recover the pieces that I have. I will also continue with the Daevabad trilogy. Just read the first book, City of Brass, and fell in love with it. And good news is that it seems that book 2 and 3 are even better. This world, it's phenomenal. It talks about genes, which is a magical creature that I cannot get tired of. I not so long ago read A Master of Gene, and I am all again in this mood of reading more about the gene, about the world, about this magical, very whimsical and vivid setting. There's romance, there's adventure, there's a certain amount of politics and magic. It's a world that it's also very well written, and I just loved it. So I will prioritize these for next year. Another story that I just read the first book and I definitely want to read more, especially now in winter, is the Winternight trilogy. I just read The Bear and the Nightingale, and man, I loved it. It's something that I was expecting to hate, and surprisingly, I did not. I actually really liked it. It's a story that follows our main character, and she is very powerful in the way that it's not really that she has powers, but that she feels empowered, she feels independent, and that's something that I cherish. It's a story that follows this pagan versus Christian religion, and it seems the story really changed from book 2 onwards, and I cannot wait to see how this story in itself unfolds. Catherine Arden, the author, writes in a very beautiful way. Always with her prose, I'm always enamored, and I want to read more about her. I also want to read the Darkwater Legacy, especially the first book, The Ember Blade. Is a story that again has been recommended to me so many times. It's kind of like this Excalibur kind of story, and I really want to see it. It's supposed to be really on point for me because of the adventure, also the characters, this misfits, this setting. It's really calling me, and I've heard just wonders about this book lately, and I'm getting FOMO actually about this one. I also want to get into the Ashes of Avarin, especially the first book, A Touch of Light by Tiago Abdallah, mainly because of the magic system that also revolves around a little bit necromancy, or dead magic kind of calls me, not necessarily revolves only around necromancy. I know this is a huge epic fantasy and that there are different characters, and in this world dying is forbidden and something happens, and I know that magic is related to death at some points, but there is also way more. These characters are rebels, are warriors, and it's a war that's about to come, and we need to figure all of that out. But I've heard that this is going to be one of my favorites. I've also got very lucky to meet the author in a live stream of Mike not so long ago, and I was fascinated by how humble he was, and I just really want to give this one a try and figure out for myself if it is a favorite or if it is just okay for me. And concluding this, and also a self-pub book, we have the Threadlight series, at least book 1, Voice of War by Zach Argyle. Again, really recommended to me. It seems that the magic system, it's really down my alley because it's kind of similar to what you can find with Sanderson. So Sanders is my favorite author. I will really give this one a try. It's also really adventurous. It follows the story of this father and a son, and I actually really like parental figures. I don't think they are reflected as much in fantasy, and it's an element that really calls me. It's also this trying to save the world, this promised person, and it's actually really short. So I will definitely give this one a try, see how I feel, and then continue with this. It seems that it has incredible action scenes, that the pacing is on point, and that it will really get you hooked from the beginning. Now let me know down below which are the series that you really want to get into this year. I cannot wait to see what you have. And thank you so much to my Patreons who joined the Ingwardian Society. If you want reading sprints, weekly reading challenges, monthly book club, join us, and I hope to see you soon in another video. Bye.